The Black Farmers Market in Oakland is a must for any serious foodie. And you can find Will Scott selling his fresh produce there most Saturdays. He's part of a movement here in California and across the nation to get Blacks to go back to the land and reclaim a heritage born from the dust. Here's his story. A little rain never stopped Will Scott. He's a farmer and says this rain is a blessing. He and his brother Melvin are delivering fresh-picked vegetables from the Scott family farm to this church in Oakland.
We love the produce from Scott Farm.
Scott is proud of his produce. One might call it a labor of love.
Look at this, it's beautiful.
Here, it will be sorted into bags and either picked up or delivered direct to consumers.
Thank you.
Scott is one of a growing number of Black California farmers who work with Farms to Grow, a nonprofit whose mission is to assist African American farmers and motivate the next generation to go back to their roots, the land.
Oftentimes the farmers say, well, we grow great food, but we cannot find a market. And this is just the easiest way for them to get the fresh, affordable produce and support our mission at the same time and support our farmers.
Scott drove 3 hours to get here this soggy Saturday morning, but his days always begin at the crack of dawn.
Usually about 6 o'clock. The young people, they don't want to get into farm because of the association with slavery. Agriculture is a multi-billion-dollar business.
But Blacks are being shut out. According to the USDA, in 1920 there were close to 1 million Black-owned farms in America, 14%. By 2017, only 1.4%. with fewer than 500 Black farms in California. In 2017, Black farmers got $59 million in subsidies. Compare that to $8.8 billion given to white farms. That's where Farms to Grow comes in, providing distribution, training, and education.
You also been able to realize the American dream, to be able to own your land so that you can produce food for your fellow man. This is kale.
Scott specializes in so-called ethnic crops, black-eyed peas, yams, cabbage, and other crops rich in nutrition that kept generations of Blacks alive. And it's all pesticide-free.
And here we have this is the broccoli, nice and tender. If you don't use chemical on it, the insects they're gonna get their portion. But the reality of it is that should be an indication that if the bugs eat it, then it's safer for me to eat it,
He says we throw away the best part of the plants.
The outer leaves, this is where most of your nutrients people ought to do too, is that, they'll take it and they'll break it down to here, People like that color. They chef on a presentation, so they have all these different colors on your plate.
Thanks to Farms to Grow, Scott and other large Black farms have been contracted to supply food to Stanford University. In a few weeks, he'll install high tunnels and cold storage to increase production. That's a far cry from his beginnings, sharecropping the land in Oklahoma with his dad and 15 brothers and sisters.
You had mules or you had horses to do the heavy labor, but the rest of it was done manually by hand. We weeded by hand, we picked, we even planted by hand. So, and my dad said, if you don't work, you don't eat. So I worked.
Scott's dad also told him to get off the farm and go to college. For years, he worked as an engineer, but the land called him back.
But I got some grandkids. It'll be there for them if they ever come around, and maybe I have to skip another generation, But somebody need to farm it, and it'll be here if they decide to do it. Sometime when the DNA is within your system, you come back to it.
There's a bill in Congress that would provide debt relief, grants, and more. But the Justice for Black Farmers bill has been blocked by a lawsuit that claims it discriminates against white farmers.
How can you say reverse discrimination when you're in denial of discrimination? It don't make sense to me. What I'm looking for is equity. I'm opposed to handouts, because if you give me a handout and you walk away and you look back, I'm still down. I need another handout. But if you give me a hand up and you walk away, you look back, I'm standing up And I'm able to not only help myself, but I'm able to help other people.
As Mr. Scott once told me, we come from the dust and return to the dust. It's in our DNA. If you want to learn more, visit farmstogrow.com, where you'll find dates for the Oakland Black Farmers Market. And while you're there, you can buy a bag of Mr. Scott's delicious produce, fresh from the farm. And not to be missed, a documentary by Farms to Grow co-founder, Dr. Gail P. Myers, called Rhythms of the Land. For screening dates, go to rhythmsoftheland.com.